Alright, what's going on, guys? Sorry about that, but for some reason I was having technical difficulties. YouTube was not wanting to show the stream and everything for tonight. I had to go hunting for it. Because usually I get everything set up where I can do my uh, subscriber mode only. But for some reason, it was not wanting to show any of that. I had to go hunting for it and actually find it somewhere else. So, hey Arnie, hey cool gamer.
Hi, Arnie. Hi, gamer. He's saying hi, Bob. So I'm guessing Bob was in earlier.
Oh, could have been.
Hey.
But
Arnie, you need to quit being around car wrecks. They might get you.
yeah, I heard about that. I didn't. I had this thing pop up. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Shut up, Ed. But oh, what a day! Got out, did some more of the yard work and everything, and I was able actually finally find the. Hey, Brent.
Hi, Bran.
I was actually able to find the original style trimmer string for the weed eater. That
Okay.
thing
Am
is
I crack?
falling. What?
I was wondering if I was crackling tonight.
No.
Okay, so it's where the fan is compared to where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
But no, just the fact that the that trimmer, it takes a 080 trimmer line, and what I've been using is 095. The 095 is bigger, but I can't use as much of it as far as lengthwise, and that's been the problem.
Yeah,
Because
I know, Bran. When Arnie's popped up, I was like, "Uh-oh, play."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, I think." I'm like, "Thank goodness he's not in it," because with him on a mobility scooter versus a car, I'd be
the car,
trying to get to Wisconsin.
okay, between him and between the car and him on a mobility scooter, I'd say the car would probably lose.
That's why I'd be going to Wisconsin. Hi, Angela.
Hey, Angela. But no, like I said, I had that trimmer string and everything. I kept looking for it. I've been looking for it for about 2 months. Like, I know it's here somewhere. Yeah. And Adele had put it on the shelf on this table, and it fallen behind down on the floor and then got buried behind some other stuff that I couldn't. It's like I never crawled back there to the very back to start looking. So I mean,
Well,
it's like nope.
while you were back there, did you ever get that other lithium that fell back there?
The other what?
You had a can of lithium that fell down between the tables at the back. The first
Oh,
time you dealt with my knitting machine.
you talking about that grease?
Yeah.
It's not lithium. It's I don't think it's the lithium is battery.
No, there's white lithium grease.
Oh.
And there was a can of it, and we ordered some.
Yeah, that can was empty, anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that can was empty when I used it.
I thought it still had some in it. That's why I asked.
Nope. If it did, it had very, very, very little left in it.
Okay.
But Yeah, that's got that done, and then actually got a big old black trash bag filled up today of actual trash, and you should have seen the look on someone's face when she saw all the bottles, especially that one big old bottle of wine that was out front.
There's a bottle of wine, bottle of Mad Dog 20, banana something flavored. Uh, about Gatorade 32 ounce Gatorade bottle. Water Waikiki bottle that you can get from I think from Walmart.
Yeah.
Their Tropicana pitcher bottle, the half gallon.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like,
and don't
really?
forget that. Don't forget that to go styrofoam container.
Yeah, that was the second one because you brought one up to the house as we were leaving, as
Yeah.
you came in the first time.
Yeah. So I got the city wanting to bitch, moan, and groan about the tall grass, but they don't say anything about people wanting a litter. I'm going, really?
Mm-hmm.
I think next time if I do have to go, I'm gonna make sure go out there, pick up every single piece of trash and everything out there, go in there in the back and say, okay, y'all want to complain about my tall grass. I want to complain about everybody littering on my property.
Yeah, because everything from the sidewalk forward is technically city property, but as a homeowner, you have to be the one to take care of it.
Mm-hmm. But yet they can put all that stuff out there. We get people drive by, they just toss their trash and everything. No big deal. They don't care. That's why I've been thinking about putting I'd love to be able to go and put about a 10 or 15-foot tall chain link fence all along the curb. It's like, yeah, throw something over this, damn it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't do that
I know.
because of city regulations.
I could always find out what they would let me do.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi, Kenneth. Thank you for the thummy.
yep. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that really gets me is that they come by and they will just toss their trash out. I mean,
Yeah.
we're finding beer cans, beer bottles, uh, anything
It's
and everything.
not even his brand of beer.
Yeah. And the bad thing is, of course, the one thing we're not finding is anything that's Bud Light.
No, you found a Bud Ice.
Yeah, it was Bud Ice.
Cologne.
Yeah, I got to put on some redneck cologne because they are bad right now. But yeah, that's the thing that really pisses me off is get people and everything just drive by and they just throw their trash out.
Hey, Backwoods.
Hey, backwoods.
See, I throw like if I'm going down the road and we're eating in the truck. Okay, I finished my burger. He's done with the fries. I'm done with the fries. Out they go, but I've got the container in my hand. Out goes the drink. Same thing. I've got the container in my hand unless the wind catches it.
Yeah. But yeah,
And
now
it's
I can understand food. It's food products themselves going out because insects and animals and everything will devour that. Okay, that's no big deal. But when you get glass and plastic and paper and stuff like that going out, or aluminum on private property, I don't like that. No. And I got to stop and pick all that stuff up just to, do the yard. But getting out there, getting it done, like I said, I think I've got that. I've still got another problem with that mower. I got to do some more work on it. Um, think it's in that handle still. I've got that, and then trying to think of what else I've got. That thing may have to come back in here and get put up on the table and get taken back apart. Yeah. See, that's the thing. You know, banana peels, that's a food product. So stuff like that, you know, animals and insects and everything gonna.
Hey, Antonio.
Hey, what's up, Antonio? Long time no see.
Yeah, banana peels, orange peels, stuff like that, you know, not a big deal. And if you do apple cores and you get them in the right spot, then a couple of years later, you're going to start having an apple tree.
Yep.
They actually did an experiment down in the Amazon. It's been over 20 years ago. They contracted with a fruit product manufacturer. They had a lot of orange peels and seeds and stuff from when they made the juice. And they got 17 tons of the waste and put it out in the Amazon rainforest. And the experiment got disbanded. Everybody got told to go home. Well, almost 20 years later, somebody else wanted to see if it was viable.
Right.
It took them 6 months to find the sign that was out there. It was a wood sign with bright yellow paint. It took them 6 months to find that sign. On the side of the road where the sign was, beautiful, bright, healthy green growing. On the other side, it was dying.
Huh.
And yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's, you know, that's the thing is I hate the fact, like I said, people just want to throw their trash and everything out. Then I got to stop what I'm doing to do something because they're too damn lazy to keep it in their own vehicle and take it home, or just at least go to a gas station, throw it away.
Be right back.
But like I said, I've got that going, and now I was before the stream and everything, I was actually in talk with hey there's Jungle Bob with Micro Center, and yeah, I know that feeling, Antonio. Um, but anyways, I checked with them because I'm wanting to try and do an upgrade on this computer, and because I'm looking at that other case and everything, the 145. But I was asking them, can a custom loop cooling system be put in there? They said no. That crap. And then I said, okay, then what case could I get that could handle at least a 240 millimeter radiator for a custom loop system that's in the top? They showed me another one, about $159. I'm going, ouch. So I don't know. Probably going to see about going up there and actually talking with somebody to see what they have to say as far as getting a better computer case, as far as building something, taking the existing stuff that I've got, you know, some of it, and then putting it onto other, you know, stuff like new motherboard, new case, and a better cooling system. Yeah, I know, Antonio, they're not cheap. Um, but the fact is that, I've got the computer out here in the garage. Texas summers they're not quite as hot as out there where you're at, but it's still hot out here. Um, and that's why I don't think an air cooled would be the best thing. So that's why I wanted to get a liquid cooled. But since I wound up doing that change and everything on it, has not been as bad. The only time the computer did get hot was, I think, yesterday when I was doing that rendering of that video, and it was, I think I saw it get up to like 82 or 83 Celsius. But the fan kicked on uh, real high. But I think that was about it. The computer didn't turn off. Right now, I mean, I just got through checking, and it's right now it's running at about 70, 71 degrees Celsius. Okay. Well, the only reason I wanted to go with the liquid cool is because figuring the heat and everything out here in the garage. Um, but now the one that I'm looking at getting, let me see if I can find it. I'll show you the one I'm looking at getting. I said it's from Micro Center. It's like $45 for it. All right. Great. All right. This is the one I'm looking at getting. Like I said, $45 and everything. It's already got 4 fans. It's already got, let's say, 4 120. I think it's, yeah. So it's already got 4 120 millimeter fans in it. And I can put a 240 top internal radiator in it. See, that's one thing I was also thinking about doing.
Okay, I'm not coming back up on camera.
Do what now?
I'm not coming back up.
How come?
What happened last time I ate Little Caesars?
Ah, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking about doing with this one, since that one will take, it shows it'll take a 240 top internal radiator. Okay, so like I said, with the 3 fans in the front, the 1 in the back, and I get me a 240 radiator, which is bigger, twice the size of what I've got now. Because on this computer, it's only a 120. Now, do you think that would be it? Because I'm looking at getting this one, this case here, and then let's go over. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing that way and go look and find it. Well, what I'm looking at is an AIO. But I found a couple of different ones. Try to find the one I liked. There was one I really liked. I mean, it wasn't expensive. Oh, there was that one? I think it was this one here. Because that's one thing I wound up doing was doing a comparison on the different ones, and I think this is the one that actually was the best one.
I liked.
Yeah. Hey, Lakes. Um, go back up here. Okay. Now it was not the cheapest out of all of them, but it's this one here. It's the Asus ROG Strix fan liquid cooler, and yes, it's AIO, so I wouldn't have to worry. Well, like I said, I don't know if a air cool is gonna work right here in the garage. Considering the fact, it's if I don't have this air conditioner working, you know, it's gonna be pretty damn hot out here.
Yeah, out um earlier this morning it was 69 degrees outside. If I'd
Yeah.
gone out, no, 79, and that was at 6. If I'd gone out to the garage, it would have been closer to 100.
Yeah. Okay, so then what about just having this AIO just on the go with those
Case.
4 fans, those 4 case fans, but just use this 240 on the processor because I'm running the AMD.
Sweetheart.
What? All right, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what he was saying earlier.
All right.
So,
Like I said, I'm just trying to make sure I kept everything nice and cool. Because even
yeah.
right now up like this, Antonio, I have been running. This has got a 120 on it right now, and I've been having it to where it will shoot up into the 80s to 90s, and then it's been shutting off. So it's been having a cooling problem, but I've only got the one intake, one exhaust, and actually I got one intake, 2 exhausts because one is actually on the radiator.
Well, we're still doing research on what we're going to get. So, right now it's still up in the air. We're still figuring it out.
Right. Nothing's set in stone yet. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do know that, yeah, I'd get that case. I would have to get a different motherboard because this one here would not work in it. I'd keep the graphics card, I'd keep the processor, and I'd keep the memory.
Yeah, because Omen is proprietary, and so you
Yep.
have to deal with all their BS.
Right. So, and hopefully the power supply I could be able to swap over. Because this is a, well, I sent you a link, so check your IM. But
Yeah,
power
because
supply,
I'm
right, but the power supply is 800 watt. So I'm hoping I could be able to swap that over.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's got a pretty good size, power supply.
Darn it. Dropping stuff.
Don't do that. Means you got to pick it up.
Eventually.
Yeah.
It's over here where I know what it is and where it's at, but yeah, because I'm so not going to be any help today. Okay, there's
Yep.
Hey, Antonio.
Hey, what's
How's
up,
it going?
Antonio?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
What I was trying to explain, because I've been building computers before I was working on vehicles.
Yeah.
Um,
And
the
I have been building computers also for a while.
when it comes to liquid cooling systems,
Uh-huh.
the liquid in the liquid cooling system will actually physically get just as hot as the CPU because
Right.
it physically cools the CPU.
Right.
Those systems require maintenance every 1 to 2 years. They require maintenance, and the standard maintenance is about $230 every year or every 2 years, depending on how much you use the system. 120
Yeah,
millimeter.
Sorry.
120 millimeter fan could push over 600 cubic feet of air per hour. So if you have
Right.
4 of those fans, that's 600 cubic feet of air per fan. That's well over 4,000 cubic feet of air per hour. It does not matter if it's 140 degrees in there. Those fans are going to cool more effectively than a liquid cooling system. And the reason being is the fans are only pushing the ambient air in the room. A liquid
Right.
cooling system is going to be over 190 degrees of liquid cooled liquid. So a cooling system is actually less efficient than air, especially on a tower like you're looking at. Those towers are physically set up to run. You can run 4 of those fans, and then you can add 2 or 3 small little 60 millimeter fans. Fans are easy to wire. Most
Oh, yeah.
modern motherboards have quick connectors on them, so you can add up to like 12 or 13 fans into a system.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Liquid.
Well, I mean, the AIO, I mean, it's just like a radiator for your car. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's pulling the heat and everything away, and it's actually circulating all that through the radiator, just like on a car. But now the radiator itself is at the very top, which is where the heat's going to want to rise to. So you got
Yes,
that.
but there's one thing you're missing on that. Yes, it's a radiator, but there's also one thing that you may not be thinking about on a radiator cooling system.
What's that?
Heat is loss of power. It takes more power, more electricity for a computer to run one of those systems than it does to run 25 little fans. Because the fans, you can control the fans on the RPM based off of what you program them to run.
True.
You can change that in the BIOS. On a liquid cooling system, you cannot change that. So
Actually,
if the
you can change
on
it. Yeah, you
not
can.
on a $160 one, you cannot. If you spent $2,000 on a liquid cooling system, you would have that control, but not on a $160 one.
That one I was actually looking at, and it said that there was a range for the fan speed and everything.
Yes, the fan speed, but there is no range on controlling how well the radiator cools based off of everything else.
True.
On the more expensive systems, the radiators can be controlled electronically, not just the fans.
But that's all due to the water pump that's in your system.
Well, you also
know
have
that
other
you
things
did-
that can fail.
Right, but I mean, you've got. Now, I'm not looking at getting a custom loop system. You know, I'm not looking at going and getting the Corsair and everything and building that. I mean, I've seen the videos out there on YouTube. Some of the guys building one using the Corsair system, and Noah using the pipe and everything that you sit there and can bend, but also where instead of doing that, you've got the flexible with the different connectors, or even the hard that get in the different connectors, the elbows and stuff.
I understand that. I don't think it's worth getting a liquid cooled system. If you have that many fans in there that come in that tower, that's plenty to cool down a tower that's running at full speed with gaming in that barn or shed you're in. I don't think you need a liquid cooling system. I don't not think it's necessary. And on top of the maintenance and everything else, if something catastrophically goes wrong with that cooling system, you now ruined your entire motherboard.
True. Now, what maintenance? Okay. Now, are you talking about on a custom loop system, or are you talking about on a AIO system?
Both of them. They still require the coolant to be changed every so many hours.
Okay. So how do you change it on like this one here, the AIO?
You have to disassemble the entire system. You have to take it off the CPU. You have to remove it. You have to remove the liquid, then physically put the new liquid back in, and then you have to physically go get more heat sink compound, and you need to reattach it.
Okay, that's no big deal there. I mean, yeah, I mean the thermal paste is no big deal. I mean, I can pick that up. Hell, I can order that from Walmart. Walmart carries that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So does Macro Center. I mean, they carry it. Almost any computer store is gonna, a well-known computer place is gonna carry thermal paste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's different brands out there. Some of them are better than others. I mean, I do know that you got a gold one out there, but I think most of them go with the silver.
Yeah, it's your money. It's up to you. I honestly think it's a waste. It's a waste of money. I have a liquid cooled system in a computer that I run outside all the time, and it could be 100. It could be 120 degrees outside in direct sunlight, and a liquid cooled system, from my experience, doesn't cool any better than a fan system, especially if you have a custom computer with 8 or 9 fans in it. I've noticed, because the air outside may be 120 degrees because it's direct sunlight, but that's 120 degrees worth of air heat going onto a fan that's actually slightly cooling the air. On liquid cooled systems, it's always hot because the CPU is always hot. So liquid cooling is actually warmer than a fan system. And in my opinion, if it's going to be in a hot barn, a liquid cooled system is actually going to keep the temps higher than a fan cooled system. That's just my opinion and experience.
Okay. See, that's what I was trying to, figure out, is which way do I go on this? I mean, I could go with like I said, I was just looking as far as what Micro Center's got. And like I said, the first thing I saw was that Montech case. Now, what is your opinion on that?
I've built a lot of computers with that case, and every customer I've ever had that I've built a computer for with that case is everybody loves those cases. A lot of people like those cases because they provide you extra locations to put extra fans. You could put four to five more 60 millimeter fans in that case, plus the 420 millimeter fans. And there's even room to put like little 15, 20 millimeter fans in it. If you want those fans to be blowing directly on the motherboard, you want it to blow on your hard drives. I honestly think those cases are way better built for fans. And I honestly think fans are more efficient. They don't take a lot more electricity to run. They're easier to wire because it's just a red wire and a black wire hot in the ground. Right. And liquid cooling systems, my suggestion would be, if you're running, 4 graphic cards and you're running liquid cooled graphic cards with liquid cooled CPU, and you're running a huge, massive gaming system that runs, 4 or 5 monitors, and you're like competition gaming, I would say go liquid all day long. But for something just sitting in a barn, it's easier to replace fans if the barn gets flooded. It's easier to replace, small components if something happens and the tower falls.
Right.
If the tower falls and it breaks that liquid cooling system, it destroys a $600 CPU and a $200 motherboard, and then it will destroy the fans you have in the system plus everything else. In my
Right.
opinion, if
Right.
you're only using it for YouTube and stuff, I don't think liquid cooling is going to make your temperatures lower in that barn. I think it's going to make them skyrocket.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Okay. What motherboard would you say would be the
Like
best?
our
Because I mean, I've got AM4 and everything, and one thing I've been looking at is the like a B550 style board.
Okay. My suggestions, if you want cooler temperatures, you would have to go to a better board. My suggestion would be like ASUS Raptor boards. They tend to run cooler on their own. Their CPUs do not run as hot, which would be a Ryzen CPU instead of an Intel. Intels run a lot hotter than ASUS's. That's just a standard fact.
Right. Well, like I said, since the processor I've got, because the plan was to get that case, get a different motherboard, and like I said, I was thinking getting a bigger radiator, cooling system, and then swap everything from this over into that one. So I'm going to be
Okay.
taking and using my, because I've got the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. I've got it's a GeForce RTX, was it 3070 Ti?
Okay.
I've got that.
So it's a higher end. That's a higher end graphic card.
Right.
Yeah.
Now think about this one. This one's only got 2 fans on it. It doesn't have 3 like some of the others I've seen. So it's already got 2 cooling fans on it.
Okay, so my suggestion would be that tower you're looking at that I saw earlier is a perfectly capable tower case.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. My suggestion would be to make it cheaper but get better components. Get a more expensive ASUS motherboard, but switch over some of your items you already have, and then put a few extra fans in it. You could put, if you use a better power supply, that will help too, because better power supplies, $200 power supply, 1200 watt power supply as an example, or even a 900 watt, those power supplies have bigger fans, and those fans don't just cool the power supply, they'll also cool a portion of the motherboard. You can install a fan on the back of the tower, which will cool the graphics card as well, as the graphic card has its own cooling fan. And then you have the couple fans in the front that are 140 millimeter fans that will cool majority of the rest of the tower. And there's other options. You could always mount a little table fan, a little 8-inch table fan, and point it at the case tower to cool the tower case down. There's a lot of cheap options to cool a tower in your situation without having to spend $170 on a liquid system and add a bunch of other things that you may not need. I understand that you have a higher end graphics card, and if you ever decide to put in like a Bluetooth, a PCI slotted Bluetooth module, or you decide to put in a DVD player or a burner, most of those items come with their own fans. So the only thing you should be worried about cooling is the motherboard, and ASUS motherboards run about 60 degrees cooler than an Intel.
Right, because now the one I was looking at is the Asus ROG Strix.
That's a very, very good motherboard.
Right, that's the one that I was looking at getting. I mean, I do know that they've got a different one. They've got that one right there is like running $190. It's like I said, it's the B550F, and I've got an intruder right now that I don't want to give me a kiss, so I gotta get
Wasp?
something. Yeah, it's one of these big red ones.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely don't want that kiss.
No,
You know, another option that you can do that would actually keep the system a little bit cooler is go higher in processors. So instead of getting a quad core, get an octa core, because you'll have more processing power for one. But if you're doing something simple as a YouTube task, you know, just a live stream like this, the computer will wind down and it will physically shut down 4 processors. If you only need 4, it will only run 4.
right,
If the system requires, it ramps up and it requires 6 processors out of the 8, well then it will run more processors, and that will, running an octa-core system will actually keep the motherboard cooler, because of the fact that if you're not using the requirements to run that many processors, it will shut certain processors down to cool the system down, which in turn will keep your temperatures lower.
right. Well, the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X is it's an 8-core right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
So
I'm looking at the specs and everything. You know, it's 3.8 gigahertz, 8-core, and everything. So I'm going, okay, I've got a good one right there.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah. So if you run that board, and then you run 120 or 140 millimeter fans, put an extra fan in it. You know, put an extra 60 millimeter fan in it, and then put your graphics card and a good power supply in it, and it would cool better than a liquid cooling system, because the processors are running cooler, and fans cool a little bit better in hot scenarios than liquid cooling systems. There's a reason why there's still mechanical fans on most cars.
right.
And that in particular is because warm air or hot air is still being cooled by the fan blades. If engines ran just off of coolant, they would never lower 50 degrees while you were driving down the road.
Right.
That's why the fans are there.
Okay. Now the other one I was looking at from Asus is their Tough Gaming motherboard, and I didn't know how that one is say, compared to the ROG Strix.
Rogue strips are a lot more reliable. They're a lot more tested. Rogue strips are actually what is put in most professional gaming systems. So if you were competing for actual money, $50,000 tournaments,
Right.
more than likely you're going to see a Rogue strips. The other one is a common for the home guy that just uses his computer for editing, or uses it for a light amount of gaming, stuff like that. But they do have, some of them have been known to the processor to fail, where the processor gets, they have a flaw in the board.
Hey, Mohawk.
They have a flaw in the board where the two of the connection points on those processors get too hot and they melt, and then a portion of the processor is not physically communicating.
Right. Well, like I said, from what I was looking at, just by getting the case, getting that Rogue Strix motherboard,
Yeah.
and then just getting that one 240 AIO I was looking at about $450. And like I said, add it, that's basically with tax and everything. And then go in, and of course, you gotta have to get some more thermal paste. That's no big deal. I could probably pick up a couple more fans, just cooling fans. Get the white splitter stuff. Uh, but I could get it all set up and like I said, and use my same processor, use the same memory because I've got 16 gig of memory. Uh, I could use the same graphics card and take and use both of the SSD that I've got. Because this one actually came with 1 terabyte, but then when that other laptop I had went bye-bye, I saved the hard drive, but even though it was like a 256 gig, actually I was able to put it in here, and that way I've got more hard drive space.
I mean, it's ultimately up to you what you want to pay for, but
Right.
my opinion, adding extra fans and a cooling system, it's not going to cool as much as you think. If you're 117 degrees in there, and you want the temps to be somewhere near 70 degrees, it's gonna struggle. The liquid cooling system's gonna struggle to even keep it below 100.
Okay.
I honestly think you save the $160 and then buy $60 worth of extra fans and then wire them to the board. And I think you will get more. I think you'll get closer to 30 or 40 degrees cooler with fans. That's just my opinion based off of experience using them.
More bang for your buck by going with more little parts than a bunch of liquid that you don't know how often you're going to have to maintenance it, refill it, and all that fun stuff.
Right, and the reason I'm trying to steer you away from liquid is liquid works really well when it's in a controlled environment like a 70-degree house.
Right.
It does not work well when it's in 100-something degree building because the liquid is hot because of the CPU. And then you're adding 117-degree temperature to the atmosphere it's around. So liquid is actually going to be more like 240-degree temps than 70 or 80. To me, it's not realistic for your scenario for liquid. And a lot of gaming computers and high-end systems are physically in a cooled environment like an AC conditioned room. So that way the liquid cooling system could be more effective.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty good gaming setups. Falcon, they've got 2 or 3 42-inch televisions as monitors. They've got all the stuff you're talking about, plus more. But that is down and they're in an AC room.
Right, and on top of those systems usually are running like 3 or 4 $1,500 graphic cards. They're running 2 or 3 other things like a DVD, a Blu-ray player. They're running a Bluetooth module. They're running a Wi-Fi module. They're running a crap ton of stuff because you need 2 or 3 gigabytes of internet speed to run a proficient gaming system. Right. And that requires a lot of power, 1,200, 1,600 watt power supplies. And that, to keep the temps down, liquid makes sense because it's in a very extremely cool room. And a lot of those gamers, you'll notice they're wearing 2 or 3 jackets because the room, their AC is at 40 or 50 degrees because they're trying to keep the tower cool.
All right.
The one that I specifically saw, their tower was a foot away from their floor AC vent. And then they had a ceiling AC vent, like Antonio would have one behind by the curtain. He had one there and they had one on the floor. So they were getting cross vent on that tower dude
I
had,
just don't
yeah,
feel it's proficient for what you need. I feel that 420 to 140 millimeter fans and possibly two 60 millimeter fans would do a better job, especially in an environment that you get more rain than I do. I get more straight hot temperatures. You get more rain, and fans will be able to get moisture away from the motherboard in that environment where liquid cooling system's not going to be able to get rid of the moisture in the air. It's only going to be able to cool the CPU, and being that it's going to be in that kind of environment, I just don't think it's going to cool very effectively.
All right, so let me look over here, and
Yeah, and plus too, when I used to repair computers and stuff, that some places they had like a 40-degree room because there would be like a internet email server, then there would be like a school server and some other server, and
yeah.
Yeah, and heat is the enemy of computers. It's the heat. It's the enemy of hard drives. It's the enemy of fans and graphic cards and power supplies. So you're already going to be running kind of hot with a power supply and the motherboard and the CPU's running hot. So in that environment, it's more effective to run 12 fans than it is to run a liquid cooling system that's not going to be very proficient at cooling.
true.
Yeah, and you have all those little fans on the CPU. Well, look right behind you, that nice big purple one. You can get it and set it on the table, hook it up to that power strip, hook it up, and start circulating air to help your small fan circulate.
Right,
tell
and
you what,
like as it is. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say is what I could do is I could get the case and get that motherboard, put everything in, and I could actually, to save money, I could actually just put in this 120 radiator that I've already got.
And then go ahead and switch out for regular fans down the road.
Right. Well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, but that case there, it's already going to have 3 intake, 1 exhaust, but then I'm adding 1 more exhaust on for the radiator itself.
I think that would be a better plan than going out and buying a different system. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think the motherboard you're choosing is a great motherboard, and I don't think you'll have any issues with that, being that it's going to run cooler anyways.
Right.
But the last thing you want to do is add a liquid cooling system to a motherboard that already runs slightly cooler than most, and then it brings the temperatures up because the liquid is too hot.
Because see, that's one of the biggest problems I've been having and trying to figure out on this thing. Because this thing, it got to the point where it was just shutting off, and then I get it restarted, and then I would check. I've got the HP Omen gaming hub and everything set up.
Okay.
Where I can bring that up. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and it shows GPU is at 37, and CPU is like right around 70.
Okay.
Okay, so I know the CPU that might be a little bit on the warm side for being at 70, but like I said, the only time I've seen it get hot was yesterday when I was rendering that video. It was running about 82, 83. And that's going to be getting pretty damn hot for a CPU, Tim.
And multiple fans will probably drop that with that motherboard. Will probably drop it to about 60.
Okay.
And the other thing that I kind of wanted to point out is that if you run multiple fans,
Right.
especially with that style motherboard, because editing takes a lot of processing power, so temps will come up.
Yeah.
But with that motherboard, you can underclock it.
See, I haven't even done this motherboard here. I have not done anything to overclock. It's just factory.
No, what I'm saying is you can underclock that motherboard. You can actually lower it. So during editing, most computers that run a 2 gigahertz is
Right.
plenty for editing. So that 3.5 gigahertz processor, you can actually underclock it and physically make it run cooler on its own just by the BIOS.
Okay.
So that's another option you could do. You could literally underclock it to like 2.5 instead of the 3.5. That's going to drop the temperatures. You add a couple extra fans. Now your cool temperatures are more like 50 instead of 70 or 65 because you underclocked it.
All right. Well, like I said, what I would try, the first step, of course, get the case, and then next step would be going and getting that motherboard. And once I got the motherboard, bring it back and start prepping that for everything. And that way I can start taking everything out of this case that I'm going to save, and then put it all together and not even worry about, trying to put the bigger radiator in there. Just go with this one that's on here. Now, the fan that was on here originally for the radiator, let me grab it real quick. So,
Yeah, and overclocking is something that I really wouldn't do myself at all because I'd be afraid of burning up the CPU and whatever else.
okay, now what was on there? It's a 120. Now it's saying DC 12 volt, 1.5 amp.
Okay.
Okay. Now I didn't know if this fan was still good or not, but when I wanted to put it on there, it said 12 volt, but a 0.7 amp. Now, yes, I know I was going down on the amperage and everything, but the only time this thing ever got noisy is whenever, say, it was doing rendering. Other than that,
Okay.
it was never making any kind of noise. Now I can tell a difference in this one. The blades are different on it. It seems like there's more blades for it. So I guess
My suggestion would run a little bit bigger fan. Go to 140 millimeter.
Okay.
They're the price between 120 and 140 millimeters is only like $6.
All right. So get a 140 millimeter fan, and now it mounts up the same way, right?
Oh yeah. It'll have the exact same mounts.
Okay. So
It's just the fan is slightly bigger.
okay. So say get a 140 and put that on that radiator. Now, what about the amperage? I know it's going to be 12 volt. I mean, it's going to be the 4-pin. Now, what about the amperage? Which one would
The amperage is only going to be based off of how fast the fan is spinning. So if the fan is set up to spin at 4,000 RPMs, the amperage is going to be a little bit higher than if it was at 2,000 RPMs. And if your power supply is capable of supplying the power, it's not going to matter what the amperage of the fan is.
Okay. So what
So
I
you could go get a 140 millimeter. That's a 7 amp fan. As long as your power supply can power the motherboard and the fans, it's not going to matter because the computer is going to control whether it's spinning slower or faster depending on what you're doing.
right. So would I have been better to have left that stock fan in it, or gone with that, or use the one I did?
Okay. That was Sarah's husband that was putting all that in there. He is a gamer.
Okay.
So he goes to work, he comes home, and he games for 4 or 5 hours, and then multiplayer online.
I also do that too.
Yeah, like
Right.
World of Warcraft and stuff like that.
Right.
He's got a decent setup.
Right.
So
But like I said, for what I'm doing is just, looking at YouTube, looking at stuff on Facebook, looking at, just surfing the web.
Now, the max you're going to be doing is editing. So,
Right.
and my suggestion, my other suggestion for you that might help is when you get that newer motherboard, push the RAM up. Go from 16 to 32.
Okay. Now, I do know that Micro Center does not offer this RAM. I don't remember. I know that HP says that I can, upgrade it.
The best RAM I've ever used is Kingston RAM.
Right. Oh. I'm trying to remember. I found it in here.
Yeah, and for one of my computers, I got RAM by Silicon Power, and that's been working good for me so far. Because the RAM that was in it, I was just literally running out of memory, and the computer would crash.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
here we go.
another thing that can make it shut down. It may not be shutting down from over temp. It could be shutting down because of the RAM.
Okay, memory upgrade. Here we go. Because what they use is the HyperX Fury.
That's good RAM too. That's really good RAM.
Okay, but I mean, $65 for one stick of 16 gig.
yeah, I've
That's
seen
actually
higher.
that's not bad. I've seen and installed one stick of RAM that was a 116 gig that was like $400.
Damn.
Youch.
Yeah,
I've seen.
and that system ran 6 of those sticks.
Yeah, because what they've got in it is the HyperX Fury 8 gig.
Yeah, you also
And-
have to make sure that your RAM is capable of going on that board.
Right. So I mean,
I don't remember if yours is a DDR3 or DDR4 or DDR5. I don't remember.
it's DDR4 3733.
Okay, and I think that if I remember correctly, that Ryzen board is DDR4 or DDR5.
Well, that Asus, yeah, that's a DDR4.
Yeah, the DDR3 is not capable of being plugged into DDR4.
Right. But I mean, I'd be able to take this HyperX, these two sticks of memory put on there, right?
Yeah, those HyperXs, yeah, as long as they're DDR4, they should work fine.
Yeah, they're
And
DDR4.
I honestly think $65 is actually pretty good,
Right, but now
being the price.
right, but now that was for one stick of 16. Okay. Now a one stick of 8 is $48.
You're only losing 20 something bucks. My suggestion would be get 2 of those 16 gig sticks. Go to 32 gigs. You don't need anything bigger than 32 on what you're doing.
Okay.
So instead of buying that $160 cooling system, you could spend $120 on RAM.
True. Let me see what Yeah, the only thing that was really getting me was the speed and everything as far as what it was showing on
Or was it 5400?
yeah, I mean because let me close that out. Because I can get like here's some G Skill rip jaws. They're 8 gig, $38.99 for 2 sticks of it.
Well, you also got to think that the cheaper you go, the cheaper the product is.
Right. But now I can go. They still have the G Skill Rip Jaws 32 gig, which is 2 16s for $64.99.
You can do that. I've heard a lot of bad things about that RAM. I've heard a lot of people say they fail within a year.
Okay. Now what about Corsair Vengeance?
Corsair is pretty good.
Because I can get 32 gig, 2 6 32, 2 16s for $65.
What's the megahertz?
Let me look on here, see what it says. Come on. I got the little circle of death waiting for it to bring it up.
What do you have now? Are they 7200 megahertz?
I'm not sure what I've got in here. I'd have to look. Okay. I know okay. It says DDR4 3200, PC4 25600, CL16 dual channel desktop memory kit. Let me see if
What was that? What'd you say? 3200?
Yeah.
That's the megahertz. That's a little low.
Well, I mean, like I said, DDR4 3200.
Yeah, I was thinking too. That's a little low.
That's pretty low. That's pretty low on the megahertz. DDR4, the standard's 5400 megahertz to 7200 megahertz.
Yeah, because what I've got, okay, because on here, it's saying 3733.
Yeah, but if you're talking about getting a different motherboard that's a different RAM, then go to a better megahertz range. That's a very slow piece of RAM. It doesn't matter if it's dual channel. That's quite slow.
Oh, 3200 is? Okay.
Oh yeah, 5400 or 7200 is fast RAM. That's 3200 slow.
Okay, so let me see what they've got.
If you want to render video, you're going to want something more than, my opinion, would be better for the 7200 megahertz. Because you have to process that information. The RAM also has to keep that in memory.
Right. Now there.
Especially when rendering video. A lot of it's reliant on the RAM while you're rendering.
And that's one thing I know I'd probably would help would be the getting more memory.
What was the first set of sticks you were talking about? What was their megahertz range?
Talk about that Skill Ripjaw.
No, the very first one, the Asus one, I believe it was.
No, I didn't see an Asus. I saw, as far as what they got on here, as far as the G Skill Ripjaws.
You said one before that. I don't remember what it was.
3200.
Oh no, you said a brand before the Ripjaw.
Oh well, that would actually be the HyperX.
The HyperX, yeah. What was the megahertz on the HyperX?
3733.
Oh, they're all a little low.
Well, that's stock.
Yeah, my suggestion would go up to a 5400 or something. That would be my suggestion.
All right, guys, I gotta bounce. I got some stuff going on the messenger. And
Okay.
All right, take care.
So y'all have fun. Stay safe. Bye, everyone in chat.
Bye, Crystal.
Bye, Arnie. Bye, Antonio.
All right, see ya.
Later.
Because I'm trying to find something that's very comparable. Now I'm finding some 3600 megahertz, and that's still not anywhere near what I've got. As far as on a DDR4. I find it on DDR5, but not 4. The fastest so far I'm finding on
That 3700, that's right. DDR4. I'm thinking of DDR3. DDR4 runs cooler, so it actually doesn't need to be as high on the megahertz. That HyperX would be my opinion at the 3700 megahertz. That would be your best option.
Okay.
I don't know if you can still hear me. I had to go away
yeah.
from the.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, it's I'm looking at the price on that. 'Cause like I said, just one of those
65, yeah.
right, it's $65 just for yeah, because it's all Kingston.
Yeah, the plus side to that Ryzen board is you can run up to, I think it's 100 gigs of RAM or 64 gigs, something like that.
On that Asus, I can run 128.
Yeah. So I mean, you can always upgrade later. You can always upgrade to like 60 gig sticks or 30 gig sticks.
Right.
But my suggestion would be a minimum of at least 32 gigs. I don't
Right.
think $65 is a bad price. I remember when that RAM was brand new and it was over 150 a stick.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm looking on here, and now I'm finding two 16 gig DDR4 3600 from the Rip Jaws. So that's basically double the amount, but for $70 for two sticks compared to $65 for one.
I also stated a few minutes ago that brand has an issue with the RAM dying.
Right. So okay.
It may not be worth the price to save $70 when it dies in a year.
Right. Now, I've got Corsair Vengeance, 32 gig, but they're only 3200.
They're on the lower end of the speed scale, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to run higher megahertz for processing. So I would stick to closer to the 36 or 3700 megahertz.
You see, that's what I'm trying to find right now. Is that
That HyperX actually is not badly priced for what you're getting.
Right.
If you went to some other brand, some more higher end brands, they'd be a lot more expensive.
Now here's a team. It says Team Group T-Force Vulcan, 32 gig DDR4 3600, $64.
I haven't heard of that one.
Right. Right now the Corsair I'm looking at, they're all like 3200.
Corsair doesn't usually have very high end RAM unless you're paying $200 a stick.
Right.
There's also a couple other brands. There's Kingston Gaming RAM too. That's another good brand. And Kingston usually isn't an arm and a leg either.
But now here's what they call a Team Group T-Force Vulcan, It's 16 gig, of RAM, so basically 2 8s. DDR4 3600, but they're like $38.
The other option would be to get the dedicated RAM from Asus. That'd be another option.
Yeah,
You can get the Raptor RAM or the Strix RAM, whichever one you choose.
right.
You guys still there?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, now let me clicking on this. Okay, so I've got option for the DDR4 3600, DDR4 4000. And oh, there's a DDR 4400.
That's a better megahertz range right there.
Right. So let me see what we've got there. Now here's the Corsair Vengeance. They've got DDR4 3600, 32 gig, 2 sticks, 16 for $80. I mean, if I want it in a white or black, it's the same thing. But, of course, both of these are RGB. I mean, what I've got in now is RGB as it is. I mean, that's
What's the price of the 4400 megahertz one?
that's what I'm looking for. See if I can find it.
What brand was it?
I haven't found it yet.
Oh,
So far, all I'm finding is the 3600.
I mean it's up to you. If you want to buy the cheaper one, that's up to you. The
Right.
two eight gigs, you're gonna take up more slots just to get 16 gigs. So you would take up 4 slots to get 32 gigs. It would make more sense to put 16 gigs in each slot and get more RAM out of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm finding, like, here's another Corsair Vengeance. This is Pro SL 16 gig. But yeah, that's 2 8s. But yeah, for that kind of price, no.
I honestly think the HyperX is actually a pretty good price for what you're getting. I
Right.
mean, you're gonna spend a little bit more, but sometimes when you spend more, you get better product,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
especially when it comes to RAM and processors.
Okay, now here a G.Skill Trident Zero, a Z Neo series, 32 gigabyte, DDR4 4000, $100.
That's not bad either.
And
Hi,
let's see.
everything guy.
Hi, Tyler. Now the one that was for 4400, that's a G.Skill Trident, but it's only 16 gig total. But that's
For one stick.
for 2 sticks, for 2 8s, for $90. So I'd be better off going with the other for $10 more, and I could get 32 gig for a DDR4 4000.
Yeah, I would. That 4,000 megahertz actually sounds pretty good for the price. Getting 32 gigs, yeah.
Right. Now, the main thing is got to try and figure out, okay, can the mother? What does the mother that Asus Rogue Strix take? So let me see what it can actually take, because it
I
does
think
say on
I
here.
think it could take up to 100 something if I remember correctly.
I know, but I'm talking about as far as speed wise.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Memory type. Um, that can take the 2133, 2400, 2666, 2933, 3200, 2800, and 3000.
Usually motherboards like that will accept 4,000. If
Right.
you're if
But
you're if you're only going up like 1,200 megahertz, they'll usually accept it.
right. So, well, like I said, I mean, it's showing. See, that's the memory type that I have to look at also. Yeah, I can get that memory, but can that motherboard accept it?
I know a few people that have that motherboard that runs 4,000
Okay.
and 4,400, and they don't have any issues because it's all based off the processor too. The processor actually has to accept it,
Right.
and it being at like 3.5 gigahertz, I don't think it'll have any issues accepting that.
So I mean, for $100, I could get double the speed or double the amount of RAM.
Yeah.
It's still not bad.
You know,
So I
and
mean,
you're probably going to be piecing it together anyways, buying the motherboard, a couple months from now, and then buying, the RAM later down the road, and then buying. So if you're piecing it together, splurge and spend a little bit extra money on, better items, and then, save up a little bit, and then buy the next item.
right. Hey, CMC, didn't see you come in.
It that's
Hey,
still
Kurt.
that's still cheaper than spending 20 grand on a computer. I mean, you're going from
Right.
like $400 to like $600.
Right. Well, I
No,
mean, like I said, the one thing I could do is I could get that case and then get that motherboard, put that all together, and use that 120 radiator and everything in it, and get that all set up, and go from there. And down the road, like you said, I could go in, I could buy, say a couple months after that, then I could buy, the better RAM, get that put
Yep.
in there, and
yeah,
then I could start doing the upgrades after that. But the first thing, get the case, and then get the motherboard, and then go from there.
And my opinion, get the case, get the motherboard, and get a couple extra fans. I mean, fans are not expensive.
Right,
You can get 200 millimeter fans for like $30.
right,
So whatever
right,
fan size you choose, they're not that expensive.
right. And that's the thing that I want to work on, because I know heat is the number one killer for a computer. And like I said, when this thing would just shut off. And I could be, matter of fact, there was one time I was actually up on someone's panel and it just shut off. And I got in here, and I mean, I hit the power on button, and the light would flicker for about half a second, and then I could see the fan move, and then it was it. It wouldn't do anything else. Take the side cover off, get my air compressor going, get in there, blow everything out, put the cover back on it, it start back up, and then by the time it booted and everything, I could bring up the gaming hub, look at the temperature, and it was already showing like 78, 79 degrees on the CPU.
Which
And I'm
isn't
going,
very high. Which that actually isn't very high.
Okay, but thing about it is, nobody's been able to figure out what's causing the thing to shut off. But I talked to my computer guy. He goes, "Yeah, he did the search, and one of the biggest complaints on this computer is that it shut down for overheating, but it would not register that in the system because I know there's a thing where it keeps records of everything that happens."
That kind of sounds like one of the RAM sticks is failing.
Just all of a sudden, just shutting off.
Yeah, because there are certain cases, because if there's no records, the RAM is what holds that record. So if one of the RAM sticks is failing, the computer's randomly shutting down because it could be thinking that there's something a catastrophic failure on the board. So if one of the RAM sticks is functioning, then not functioning, the system could be acting like it's overheating, but the BIOS is shutting the computer down because it doesn't recognize one of the RAM sticks. You could have a RAM stick that's just randomly ghosting, where it's working 1 minute, for several hours, and then randomly the stick goes offline, and then the stick comes back online, and the computer recovers before it shuts down, and then randomly the stick can go back offline. And when the BIOS sees that stick goes offline, it can literally kill the power. That's another option. That could be one of the sticks is just it's failing in a intermediate fashion, and the computer doesn't know what to do, so it randomly shuts down. Especially if there's no records.
Right, but here's the thing. I'm not the only one that's got this computer complaining about the same thing happening.
So that's true.
So I mean, I can understand for me, but if you've got say 100 people out there that's got the same computer, same model and everything, and it's happening to them, would you say it'd be a memory stick then that's going bad, or would you say that would be the motherboard?
I would say it'd be a memory stick because some motherboards are notorious for killing memory sticks.
So it could be the motherboard that's got a problem with it that could be killing the memory then.
Yep. Yeah. It could be that the board has a cross tracer. The board could have a section where when they put the board together, they might have put one of the end patches with too much solder, and it's linking with a ground strap on the board. And it could be leading straight to the ground strap of that memory stick.
Because see, this is the second one that I've actually had, because the first one I got, it was doing the exact same thing, and I took it in before it was even a year old, and they said, well, we can't fix it, but what we'll do is we'll give you your money back. And come to find out at that time that particular model, it was now obsolete because they'd already gone to a better video card.
That to me sounds like it went obsolete because of the fact it had so many problems.
Well, no, it was actually going obsolete about 2 months. I found out before I even bought it, because they were coming out with the because the one I had, I think, had a 3060 video card. So now I went from a 3060 to a 3070 Ti.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Ryzen 7 5700, and now I'm going to 5800. So they So it's just little upgrades here and there that they were coming out with and everything. So yeah, I mean, that was why that other one went obsolete, but it was doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden, this one was starting out fine, and then boom, it would just start shutting off also. So could it be the fact that it's a bad motherboard? They never have figured it out yet.
It's a possibility that one of the tracers on the board is either connecting with another tracer, or it's connecting with another ground strap, or it has too much solder attached, and that solder's touching another point, and it could be causing the RAM to fail. It could be confusing the BIOS,
Okay.
where the BIOS is not understanding, certain things. Like 1 minute it sees all the RAM, it sees that the hard drives are there. The next minute the BIOS doesn't see the hard drive, or it doesn't see the RAM, or it doesn't see the power supply power coming in,
Right.
and it could be a faulty board. That's a very big possibility. I remember 20 years ago, Toshiba came out with a Cosmio X500 laptop that was a gaming laptop. 2 weeks after they came out with that laptop, which is that I have one of those laptops, and I actually purchased the X505 back, or the X500 back then, and mine was being custom made, so mine was technically taking longer. Come to find out, the X500 had an issue with the heatsink for the exhaust,
Really?
and it caused a failure, and it fried the motherboards. So before
Oh.
my laptop was ever sent out, they called me and said, "Hey, you're getting the upgraded X505 board that actually runs 32 gigs more processing, more RAM, and we're just going to provide it for free because we have a catastrophic failure with the first board." And it was causing the temps to skyrocket because the when they made the exhaust piping for the heatsink,
Right.
the intake pipe actually was crushed too far down during manufacturing, and they didn't realize it. So it wasn't exhausting properly, and it was skyrocketing the temps of the CPU, and it literally fried. Like, they told me it was like 17,000 laptops that they had were fried while testing there.
Damn.
So
Hey, Sarge just saying he didn't recognize you with the haircut.
I don't have a haircut. I'm going bald,
Hey,
which is why I always wear a hat.
Yeah, but I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. He probably didn't recognize you without the hat on.
Yeah. But yeah, that could be your problem. It could be a motherboard, catastrophic motherboard, problem. There's been boards over the years that were soldered wrong. I
Right.
remember, remember seeing a slew of Intel i7 boards, the very first generation i7s, that the hot side of the board was actually, it was soldered to the ground side, and the ground side was soldered to the hot side, which was a manufacturer defect. But it happens. Somebody didn't catch it during the quality control check that the red side was soldered to the wrong side.
Now, let me ask you this. Since I've got a AM4 chipset and everything, would I be better to stick with that, or would I be better go to the AM5 since that seems to be the newest processor setup?
I would go to the AM5. I've heard a lot of good things about the AM5s, and I've actually installed a couple of them.
Okay. How long do you see the AM4 being still used and being out there and supporting everything for it, as far as parts wise?
From what I know, and from what I've been told, they're only going to be supported for the next about year and a half to 2 years.
Okay, so in other words, I wouldn't be able to go to Micro Center and buy AM4, motherboard in a couple years.
Yeah,
Everything's going to be AM5.
yeah,
That
and I've heard that they're developing an AM6 right now.
see,
That's
that's
not
one
going to
thing
be
I was
out. That's
thinking.
not going to be out for like 3 or 4 years.
Right. See, that's one thing I was thinking of. Is like, should I go on and get the AM4 and use my processor I've got now, or should I think ahead and go on and get an AM5, which means I have to get another motherboard, for sure. But that means I'd have to get different memory because that takes the DDR5, not DDR4.
I would think ahead because DDR5 is actually more reliable than DDR3 and DDR4 from everything I've ever experienced and used while installing and building computers. DDR5 seems to be more stable. It doesn't have as many problems. It's a lot smoother on its reads. It has a lot better memory retention. So I would think ahead. I mean, if you have to save, I would think ahead and go to the newest available, and you'll get a lot more reliability. You'll get a lot more stable temperatures. That's the nice thing about technology. The better the motherboards get, the more stable temperatures become too.
All right. Now, okay, here's a weird thing. I'm looking at the Asus. It's the Asus B650EF Rogue Strix AM5 motherboard. Normal price $300. But
Yeah.
they have 11 open box starting at $135.
I wouldn't have any issues buying an open box. Asus is really good about that.
Right. Let me see what. Okay, they've got one.
That was what, $30 more than the AM4.
No, we're talking brand new. We're talking $110 more.
No, I mean if it's out of the box, if it's used, what was that, like $30 more than a brand new AM4?
No, it's actually cheaper. The AM4 brand new is $190, but now they've got one that says incomplete, missing socket cover. That's the one they want for $135, but now they got one that's complete for $180.
So it's still a used one still like $10 cheaper with the socket.
Yeah, but now
I would jump on a used one, to be honest, because Asus, when they get one back, they go through it, make sure everything's good before they sell it as an open box.
Now, what exactly is an open box? Is it something that where someone's bought it, might have a problem with it, they returned it, and then Asus, has got it, and then they check it all out and send it back to the store?
An open box could be something as simple as that somebody bought it, realized it didn't work for their setup, opened it, realized it didn't work, and took it back to the store. Or it could have been that board had a malfunction, somebody sent it in, they refused to pay for the repair, and then they dropped the price on it, fixed it, put it back in a box, and it's ready to sell again.
Okay. Now, missing socket cover, what are they meaning by that?
A socket cover would be the power port for the power supply.
Okay.
I was thinking it would be the CPU cover.
Oh yeah, it could also be the CPU cover. Yeah. More than likely, when they say socket cover, it sounds more like they're talking about the socket plug for the power supply.
Okay. Hey, William.
Hey,
See, now
William.
Sarge is saying he only uses Asus or Gigabyte. Now, how would a Gigabyte board say compared to an Asus?
Asus is a way better than a Gigabyte board. I mean, Gigabyte used to make a lot of things back in the day. 20 years ago, they used to make like the old style Ethernet PCI slot boards. They used to make motherboards. Gigabyte used to be used a lot by Dell. I honestly don't feel that Gigabytes are. I think 20 years ago they were better than they are now, but that's my opinion.
Now, one thing I'm looking at on this this one here, the B650, it looks like there could be 3 SSDs put on it.
The AM5.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, when you go to the newer boards, you also get more features. And most of the newer boards, I know the AM5, you can actually run like 3 SSDs, and you can run like 3 or 4 hard drives on it, like regular standard hard drives.
Damn. I'm looking on here. They've got it says bundle and save up to 280, basically $281. You get the motherboard, you get the Ryzen 9 7900X, and two G-Skill Flare 32 gig DDR5 6000, $550.
That's actually a pretty good deal, especially with that RAM. That's probably like $300 something worth of RAM.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
no. See, like I said,
Well,
that was something.
you got lots of things to think about.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, that was something that, to me, like I said, I could go in there. I mean, for $180, it's cheaper. It's $10 less. Say this one's complete, and it's for $180. It's $10 cheaper.
Versus
And
an older model, it's 190. Yeah.
that would be the B550. A B550 is 190, and this B650 is, I mean, brand new. It's $300. So
But
like I said,
I would trust any day. I would trust a refurbished part or a used part from ASUS over most other companies. I've got probably 35 ASUS products in this house right now.
okay,
And I use a lot of ASUS products for their routers. I use a lot of routers, extenders. I have one USB ASUS Raptor Wi-Fi stick on every laptop. They are amazing products. I've got 1, 2, 3 Rogue Gaming laptops from ASUS in this room, sitting
yeah,
10 feet from me.
and that's one thing that now how I found out about Asus is when that other laptop got destroyed. I actually went over to the pawn shop to see what they had, and I told them I was looking for something. I said the only stipulation is it has to have a AMD processor. I don't want Intel. I prefer AMD, and they
I
showed
also
it.
prefer AMD also.
Right, but they wound up showing it to me, and they said, okay, well, we've got these two here, and both of them were identical. I mean, they probably were made about a minute or two apart, but basically the same laptop. But they were the or the Asus Strix or Rogue Strix gaming laptops.
Yeah.
So they both had the AMD Ryzen 7 8 core, I think 16 gig of RAM. It did not have quite a bit of hard drive. I think it might have been like 500 gig.
Okay. Kind of
Uh,
one of the lower end, the $2,000 model instead of the $6,000 model.
this one here, I think brand new would have been about $1,400.
Yeah. That and
And
the hard drive is the first thing to go when you go lower in price.
right, but now I negotiated with them, and I think I think I got a good deal on it. I told them $700 total out the door, tax on everything,
That's a pretty good deal.
and they accepted it. So I mean, like I said, that was tax and everything. I said I'll give you 700 total. So they actually sold it for like 600, and I think about 650, something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty screaming deal.
Yeah. Now, if I had the other $700, I could have bought the second one they had. But I didn't have. Now, I probably could have worked the deal out and get both of them for $1,100.
You probably could have done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because some more money to them, whether it was a little less or not, would have been better than not
Right.
selling the other one at all.
Right. I mean, they told me what they had invested in both of them. And I mean, they wound up making their money plus. So
Yeah.
they came out ahead, which is their job and everything. I don't have a problem with that because that's what a pawn shop is for. They have to buy it at a certain amount, and they're going to turn around and sell it, where they're going to make their money back.
Well, that's every business. I mean, if I
Oh, yeah.
didn't upcharge, a little bit, I wouldn't survive. I mean, there's one thing to give a discount to a customer because I'm fixing their vehicle and say, I discount my hours instead of, buying cheaper parts. Well, I can do
Right.
that. But,
Right.
you still have to make profit or you won't pay your bills.
Right. And I mean, like I said, that's why I offered them $700 total. I think they had $500 in it as far as what they had bought it for. So I mean, they
Oh,
made
yeah.
$200. They basically made $200.
Yeah, $200 in profit, I'll take that all day long.
Right. So I mean, like I said, now if I'd gone in there and offered them, 11, maybe 1,200 for both of them, because they didn't have as much invested in the other one. I think they only had like 400 in the other one. So if I'd offered them, say, 1,200 for both, they would still been making money.
It still would have been making about $400 or $500 in profit.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like that would have been a win-win deal. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I've learned is go in there and I don't know. It might be Briggs. I don't know why you'd scrape off the undercoat unless you're going to put more on it. But
I can't see the chat, so.
he's saying he scraped off the old undercoating on his T100. He says it's cleaner.
Oh yeah, he sent me a photo of that.
Yeah, saying it's cleaner than a Texas truck. I mean, yeah, anytime you clean something, it's going to be cleaner than anything else. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I saw it, but there's no rust on it. I actually saw the pictures, and so it still has the powder coating on it.
Right.
When you live in New York, that's very rare.
Yeah.
For a 28-year-old vehicle, that's rare.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Especially a vehicle that lived all of its life in that state.
Yeah. So I'm going, yeah, it's not bad. But
You have to go outside, Tommy? Come on.
But yeah, like I said, for me, what I'm gonna, I could get that same case because that same case will handle that that AM5 motherboard.
Yep. Yeah, so you don't have to change your case selection at all.
Right. Now the only other thing I'd have to do I'd have to see about getting another processor, and then definitely get new sticks of RAM.
Yeah, the AM5 I know will go higher than an octa-core.
Right.
I know it will go higher than that too. So that's another option. You could choose an octa-core, or you can choose a 12-core or a 16-core processor.
Now, if I really wanted to go out, I could go get me a Threadripper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get me a Threadripper, and I wouldn't have to worry about having a processor for how many years?
I don't remember off top hand.
Because I think one of those Threadrippers, the cheapest I saw, was like $4,000.
Yeah.
Just for the damn
they're
processor.
expensive.
Yeah, $4,000. And when they first came out, I think the cheapest one was like $12,000.
Yeah, I remember at one point they were they were up to like 20 grand at one point.
Yeah, and that was only what, a couple years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. No.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I first found out about a Threadripper, and they said, "Oh yeah, you've got this from AMD, you've got this one. Oh, if you want, you can always step up to the Threadripper." I go, what the hell is that? They go, "That's the Superman of AMD processors. That's one
Uh-huh.
that that's one that kicks ass, takes no name." And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
the price on it,
those are used in server systems too.
yeah, and it's like the price on it. Uh, that would definitely be overkill for what I need. Like I said, I could go I could be next decade before I'd have to upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, that freaking the tower would last 40 years into the future
Yeah, because I
on
mean,
just what you're doing with it.
yeah, it's like, okay, Threadripper, okay, yeah, no problem. It'd be what, 2050 by the time I got. Oh, this thing's all wore out. I gotta upgrade. It's too damn slow.
So what you're using it for, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in your will.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, like, damn. But yeah, I mean, I know they got the Ryzen. Like I said, I'm at the Ryzen 7. I know there's a Ryzen 9, and I know that's better. But I mean, a Ryzen 9 would be, I think, still overkill as far as what I'm doing.
Well, processing videos and rendering does take a lot of power. I mean, you
Right.
can
Oh
always
yeah.
go up to a Ryzen 9 just specifically for the editing.
Right. But I think first step, right now is get that case, and then see about getting that the B550 Rogue Strix motherboard, and swap everything over.
Or the 650 we were talking about because it's the newer one.
Right. Well, I mean, I could get that, but then, like I said, then that means I'm still looking at getting another processor. I'd have to see about getting RAM, which is something that that would take even longer before I can even have the system up and going. Whereas right now, I'm trying to get something that would be up and going in a short amount of
I don't remember offhand if the processor you have is even capable of being put on the AM4.
time. Now my processor would only go AM4. It will not go AM5.
Oh, okay, so it is capable of going on AM4. Okay,
Right. Yeah, my processor is AM4.
okay.
That's why I'm saying I get that B550 and I'd have no problem with it.
Yeah, you'd be spending more with the AM5, but you're also getting a better, so that $10 is really going to be based off of, do I want to save for another couple months and get a $10 cheaper but better motherboard and then still have to spend money on RAM? You're possibly going to still have to spend money on RAM either way.
Right. Either way I go, I'm still going to have to get RAM. Well, okay, let's see how much uh, RAM and everything on something like that is.
I'll be right back.
All right. Let's see what DDR5 memory is. Start getting all this. Oh. And let's see if I can find where it gives me the memory. All right. Well, that's not bad. 124, say 125. That's not bad. $120 for a couple of Corsairs.
Thanks, Layla.
Arnie, what do you think of Corsair memory?
That price isn't bad. DDR5 usually isn't very much more expensive than DDR4.
I mean, here's Corsair Vengeance, 32 gig DDR5, 5600.
Yeah, I dealt with Corsair before, and it's pretty good.
Corsair, Corsair has always been a premium brand.
Okay. Well, now here's I've got it in white. I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what the difference is between these two. Okay. There's one.
With all this tech talk, we probably scared everybody off.
Could be. Briggs wants to know where your puppy is.
He's outside.
Okay.
He had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, Layla walked on the phone and left.
Right. DDR5 5600, PC5 4480. It's CL36 dual channel. It's in white, $120.
That's not bad. That's actually a pretty good price.
And that's for 32 gig.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I mean, if you went 64 gig, $240. I mean, that's not bad either.
No.
So, but 32 gigs, that's a pretty good price for 32 gigs worth of RAM.
Yeah, I'm going, and yeah, that's not bad.
That's only like $15 more than the other one. So for
Yeah.
the DDR4.
All right, so let me start doing the math on this. Okay, so it's $45 for that case. Say 120 on the.
Shit, I remember when those cases were $300.
I remember you used to buy a case for like $50, and it came with the power supply.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so case and 2 sticks of the memory is $165. That motherboard was what I say, 180.
It was 180, yeah.
Okay. So now got to figure out how much is a CPU.
But you're at what, like 460, 470?
Let's see. I'm at 345.
Which is cheaper than the AM4 and that RAM by a little bit. I know you add a couple fans in there, so $400, a couple extra fans.
Right. Okay. They got the Ryzen 7 7700X. Yeah, now this is where it's going to be the expensive part, buying the processor. This one here, I mean, it is a step up over what I've got, because I've got the Ryzen 7 5800X. This is 7700X. Now it is going from a 3.8 gig to a 4.5. It's still an 8 core.
Okay, what's the price?
$339.
Okay, what's the price of a Ryzen 9?
Got a Ryzen 9 right next to it, 7900X. It's 4.7 gig, 12 core, 431.
The 12 core is worth the price a little bit better.
Right. But see, now here's a Ryzen 7 7800 X3D. It's 4.2 gig, 8 core, but it's 420.
I still think that Ryzen 9's better priced, especially being a 12 core.
Right. Let me just eliminate a Ryzen 5. I mean, how would, going to the AM5 and being with a Ryzen 5, how would that be? Would that
It'd be pretty slow. It'd be a step down.
Okay, so going from a Ryzen 7 on a AM4 to an AM5 would be a step down. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking also.
And going up to a 12 core, and it's not really much more than a Ryzen 7 for a 12 core instead of an 8 core. That's kind of the better price, the better bang for your dollar.
All right. Okay. I'm just looking at. Okay, they've only got just three of them in the Ryzen 7 series. Um,
Even a lower end Ryzen 9 is going to be better
right.
than a higher end Ryzen 7.
Now the best one they've got as far as AMD Ryzen 7, they got the 7800 X3D. It's still an 8 core, 4.2 gig, but $420.
Okay.
So yeah, that right there, that would be what would be killing me is going to the processor if I go to a AM5 motherboard.
But even if you stayed within uh, the AM4, and you got a better processor, you would be still looking at $200-$300.
Oh, okay. Let's see what I've got. Let me get rid of the AM5, just stick with the AM4, and I've got 4 items to choose from. 5800X 3D, which I don't have. It's still an 8 core, but it's only 3.4, whereas what I've got is 3.8 gig, but it's
Yeah.
290. But now the 5800X 8 core, $210.
So you'd be saving $230.
Right. Yeah, and so far, I mean, yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I mean, what the hell does a 3D do for me?
I think it allows, if I remember correctly, the 3D models allow three-dimensional processing. Allows you to do three-dimensional movies or videoing.
So, in other words, it's not something I would really need because it's not something I'm going to be doing.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Okay. So let's just pick up.
That one would be rated for processing 3D. That's
Right.
all the only reason they labeled it that way.
All right. So right now, the lowest cost would be the Ryzen 7 7800. It's still 3.8 gig, 8 core. Um, that says it has a Wraith Prism cooler included, and that's
Okay.
$290.
So $290, you're about $160 away from a Ryzen 9.
Well, let me see what a Ryzen 9 would be.
I think you said it was like $130 a few minutes, $430 earlier.
They've got one for 431,
Yeah. So
and that
you'd be going from 290 to 430, so that's like $180, I think, off the top of my head. I can't remember. I can't do math right now.
about 140.
Yeah, so you would go from or $700 to 815. I mean, it's
Right
not a lot.
now, they do have one here, the Ryzen 9 7950 X3D, which I mean, I really don't need that 3D, but it's 16 core. But we're talking $630.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah. But now if I want to go the Ryzen 9 7950X 16 core, $549. $549.
That one's cheaper than the Ryzen 7.
Yeah. But now I've got a Ryzen 9 7900X 3D. It's $480. I mean, so far the best one would be the Ryzen 9 7900X 12 core at $431.
I think the 12 core is the better bet. I don't really think you need a 16 core.
Yeah. But like I said, the thing I've got to look at is cost wise, because I'm still not working. Okay.
Yeah.
So having a very limited income with just, on my mom's income, her retirement right now, and we just got groceries, and I think that was like $400 for the month.
Yeah, groceries are expensive nowadays.
Yeah, and groceries are going up because we were a few months ago it was like $300. Now it's like $400 for almost the same thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like damn. And that's one thing that Chris and I we were discussing is like, how can we cut the cost on everything?
Well, my suggestion it would be to go without the computer a little bit longer and save for the better stuff. That would be my suggestion. I mean, you could always make what you have work for now.
Right.
Just
And
push it long enough to get everything that you want, and then be like, okay, well, I've saved the $800, or the 700, or whatever it is, and I mean, you can go out and buy the tower tomorrow, and you can buy, a couple fans tomorrow. But
Right.
I mean, if you have to wait to spend $400 on a CPU, I mean, waiting a few months is better than, and waiting to build it's better than, say, buying the older version and then you're not happy with it,
Right. Well,
or it doesn't process what you're trying to use the computer for
right.
well
Well,
enough.
right. Well, what I'm thinking, like I said, just to get started, get the case, and then get that B550 board, swap everything over, and then start saving the money up for the AM5 motherboard, for the DDR5 memory, and then for the processor.
I think that would be a little bit wasteful on money to go get the AM4 board and then a year later get the AM5, because then now you're spending the money for two boards.
True, but the thing about it is I'm still keeping the same case, still keeping the same video card. I'd have to get different memory. I mean, in the long run, yeah, going to the AM5, I'd be having a better one, but short term, I'd be better off getting the fleshy. I'd be better off getting the B550 just to keep running until, because hopefully that would take care of my shutting down problem. That's the main thing I'm looking at, is getting where it's not wanting to shut off on me.
And I understand that, but you could also negate that by taking the computer inside.
Right.
And just do a live stream inside, or do some of your video editing inside. So, I mean, I think it's kind of wasteful, especially being that you don't have your own income coming in. I think it'd be wasteful to spend that money on a motherboard and then buy a newer motherboard down the road, and then buy new RAM, and then buy a new CPU. Well, then you're basically spending money on that computer twice.
Right. Well, I'm already past my time a lot, so I need to shut this down, and I need to get inside because Mother Nature is calling, and I got to get in there fast.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, I appreciate Arnie. Appreciate Antonio for coming up. And everybody that's in the chat and everything tonight. Appreciate everybody coming in.
A great conversation.
Yep. And I'm still working on, I've still got one guest. He's still working out all the details on his end to be able to come in. I know Antonio's going to enjoy that. But we're still working out all the details. I'm still working on a couple of other people, trying to get them. I'm still sending out emails to different, people. But all I can say is, until next time, everybody, y'all stay safe. God bless, and y'all have a good night.
Good
Take
night,
care,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.